Dr. Carafano, let's pivot to Iran and Israel. Obviously, post-October 7th, Israel's response in defending itself has basically taken out Hamas, basically defeated Hezbollah with the fall of the Assad regime and clearing up that airspace, and the response, the earlier response when Israel retaliated against Iran, softening up, I would say, some of their nuclear sites. Should Israel, at this moment in time, and this is opinion only, is now the time to go after their nuclear facilities once and for all? Because the concern I'm hearing, not will they, I'm not asking whether they will or not, right? But from an analytical standpoint, right? This is I'm a political thinker and real politic, right? Capital R, small k, in the old sense of things. Should they, is my question. Is now the time?
Well, I think Israel has always been in a strategically precarious point in that they've always had to play defense. And I think that honestly remains true here. I mean, there was a point that Israel could have gone after some stuff as a retaliation for Iranian attacks. I think that window's kind of passed. I don't think they have to. First of all, the Iranian decision to go nuclear is not an infrastructure decision. It's a political decision.
What does that mean? It's not an infrastructure decision. What does that mean?
In other words, they have the capability to turn a key and say, we're a nuclear power. Boom. Right? Nobody can stop that. And even if Israel destroys part of its infrastructure, I think they still have that capability. So what's keeping Iran from going nuclear is a political decision, that they don't think it's in their interest at this point to declare nuclear capability. We want to keep it that way. Now, look, they may make a decision between now and January 20th, but that's
right
to do this. That window is shrinking pretty quickly. But once Trump in his office, I think what you want to do is convince them that politically they don't want to make that decision. And this regime is very risk averse. So the more they feel threatened and under pressure, the more likely they are to pull in their claws. And so putting Iran in a very, very small box where this regime worries about its own survival is the best way to contain the nuclear threat and also the larger threat. Actually, this is a point I think I disagree with a lot of people on, that the problem is Iran is a nuclear power. You know what? If they have nuclear weapons, what are they going to do with them? And my answer is I don't think you're going to do anything with them. They're a threat to the region across the board. And you have to deal with the regime. It's like when you have a criminal, it's like, do they have a gun? Your point in your monologue, do they have a gun? Do they have a knife? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The problem is not the weapon. The problem is the person. The problem is not a nuclear arm per se. The problem is the regime. And what you want is this regime to be as afraid of Israel and Donald Trump as possible.
Yeah.
And they're in a very weakened position here. They know that. I think they already see that coming. Donald Trump's going to come into office. He's going to beat them like a rug. And I think that's what's going to keep Iran in the end from going nuclear. And then we can have a longer term strategy about how we make sure they're denuclearized. But the goal is more important. I mean, just as important, maybe even more important is nobody ever thinks that on October 7th is ever again a good idea. And the way you do that is to make sure they don't have the capacity and the capability to do that. That's my opinion.
So I want to float a theory I have. It's been my opinion for quite some time that this, going back to 2016, the Russia hoax essentially drove Russia in one form or another into China's camp, right? I mean, I think
totally disagree. They were married already. This notion of how they were, they had to do this. They love doing stuff with China. They love doing stuff with Iran because these three countries have one thing in common: they all hate America, and they will cooperate as much as they can get away with if they can hurt America. So this is not our fault. Nobody drove the Russians anywhere.
Yeah,
these are like mafia families that, they may shoot.
Interesting.
They may, fight for some turf. But at the end of the day, they all hate the FBI.
No, I mean, that makes sense. Just like as conservatives, a lot of times we talk about the parallel economy. You know, I want to give my money to other conservatives. I want to give my money to Christians. I want to spend my money with businesses that are aligned with my values. And so it makes perfectly good sense that a country would do the same thing.
If you want to strain the relationship between Iran, China, and Russia, the way you do that,
right? That's my question.
Is you make them less valuable allies for each other. The more they can deliver to each other. So if you want Russia to not do business with China, then you make Russia so poor and so weakened that the Chinese could care less about the Russians.
Interesting. So so in your opinion, it's got to be a stick rather than a carrot, right? So all along, America's been like, oh, if we just open up trade with China, then they'll be cool, and if we just open up trade with whoever,
no, that's not true. I mean, you can have carrots and sticks as long as you use the carrots like a stick to beat them with.
Interesting, because to me the question is how to break the axis, and to me I see Iran is in terms of international terrorism the head of the snake, and I think you can neutralize them. And I was particularly taken by Prime Minister Netanyahu's public statement for the people of Iran recently. I think that was a couple of days ago, right? Which I thought was an incredibly powerful statement. But to me, if you can separate Russia from China's orbit in some capacity, it creates opportunities to box in China. No, you disagree.
You box in China by making Russia weak and vulnerable, and making they don't have many friends and allies. You want to make their allies weak and vulnerable.
So you think
you cannot. The problem with seducing these guys is if you want to seduce them, you have to offer them something more than the Chinese or the Iranians are going to give them. And one, you can never do that. I mean, you'll never do that. And the other is when you ask, what do you guys want? And they're going to say, well, we want you to be weaker.
Yeah.
And let us do what we want. So I know it sounds like, geostrategic chess and all that, but it ain't going to work. Every single American president since Bill Clinton has tried to play nice with the Russians, including Donald Trump. Every single one of them has wound up at the end of their presidency saying, what am I going to do with these guys? And that ain't never going to change.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and we get a very different Russia. And it might be this tiny little enclave like around Moscow.
Do you think
like 14 people?
Is this a justification for the Ukraine war then? I mean, is that what people are like, oh, well, we're weakening Russia, ergo, therefore, henceforth.
Look, Russia weakened Russia. Right? They ran this country so badly that they were losing on every periphery. The Belarus, the government almost was overthrown.
Right.
Moldova, the Georgians, everybody was leaving them. And Trump's and Putin's response and the worst was the Ukrainians were turning their back on Russia. And so Putin's response was, I will invade Ukraine. That will be successful. Not only will I punish them, but everybody else will be scared out of their gourd and they'll do what I want. So this is not about us weakening Russia. Russia weakened Russia.
Wow.
Russia invaded Ukraine because it weakened itself and it was losing stuff. And now the thing is where are the Russians? They're fighting back in Moldova. The people are in the streets in Georgia. The Belarusians are saying, we don't want to be part of this. And the stands are saying, we don't want to be in the Russian orbit.
Yeah.
This is not the time to be nice to Russia.
Good.
This is a time to give the Russians what they deserve, which is you made your bed, you go lie in it and figure it out. We're not going to throw you. I mean, if you throw the Russians a life raft of, whatever those things called, those little donut things, all they're going to use that is to pull the ship under. That's it.
I love it.
So keep supporting you. So keep supporting the Ukraine. in the
Well,
war?
look, I think first of all, I think Ukraine's already lost to the Russians. I don't think the Russians are ever going to be. Both these
question.
countries are really under a lot of. Both these countries are strategically exhausted, both the Russians and the Ukrainians. Now, if I were a callous, hateful person, I would say let the war continue forever, because the longer the war continues, the worse the Russians are going to be. Now, that will also decimate the hell out of Ukraine. I, like President Trump, want a ceasefire, not because we need a ceasefire to, deal with Russia. It's who wants to see every Ukrainian die? I mean, actually, it would be better for us to bleed the Russians to death, but that's not very Christian, and we don't need to do that. So we need a ceasefire to save Ukraine, and then we'll deal with the Russian problem. But people keep thinking it's like the super bad child that is like, what can I do to make this kid behave, right? And the answer is, other than disown them and put them in jail, nothing. So,
Yep, they're naughty. We need to spank them. That's what I just heard.
And look, I mean, Trump comes in a very, very. First of all, we've already seen the world essentially respond to Donald Trump, and acknowledging
the Trump effect.
He is not just the leader of the free world; he's the leader of the world, and everybody's going to be playing Trump's game. We've already seen that. Iran has incredibly strategically overreached. Hamas has been smashed. Hezbollah has been hurt. Syria has been lost. The Iranian economy is in shambles, and this is even despite the fact that Biden gave tens of billions of dollars. Iran is in a very precarious position. The Russians are not in a good position. The Chinese are scared out of their wits by Trump, and their economy is not in great shape either.
Yeah.
This is not the time to. I'm not saying start World War III, because we're not going to do that. I mean, I'm not saying do regime change. I'm not saying bomb people. I'm just saying, when you're winning, you don't take the. It's like there was coaches once saying the one game he always regretted is it was the New York Giants, and they were up, and they had this ground game, and they were just pounding and pounding and pounding and pounding, and then they decided to switch to throwing the ball, and they lost the game. And the guy says, "What was I thinking? I was winning. I had the enemy on the ropes, and I changed my mind, and decided to do something different." We have the Russians and the Chinese and the Iranians more on the ropes than people realize. Now is not the time, and this is why Trump now is exactly the right kind of president we need.
Okay.
All right. That's pretty
guys,
decisive. That's pretty decisive. The missus is home from Pilates. Yes.
What?
Tell Mrs. we said hello and thank you.
The missus is home from Pilates. It means we have to let you go.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with Dr. James Carafano of Heritage Foundation. It's a good show when, but by the time you're done, my head hurts because I can't take in everything that you just put out there. But
yes,
we so appreciate your time of coming on the show, and hopefully you'll come back again next time your wife goes to Pilates.
I would love to come back. Let's do it again. And seriously, in all seriousness, thanks for what you guys do. I love the organization. I love what you're doing. I love the podcast. Everyone should listen to you, and you guys should just keep doing what you're doing. If there's anything we can do at Heritage to help support you guys, please just let us know. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
God bless you as well.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dr. Carafano.
Dang.
I'm telling you, my head hurts. There was so much information and knowledge, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's,
right?
it's
and we are right.
Yeah.
American Center for Education and Knowledge.
Oh,
well,
look
I just got more than I could handle.
Hey, call back. I like it. You know what I really love, Robert, is, you've got these really great connections, these really great friends, people who, like, I haven't heard a lot of those viewpoints. I have not heard a lot of those things being said in the news, in the media. And, you can't get that from CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. You get it from independent media. You get it from the Heritage Foundation. You get it from these think tanks of people who are looking at the world and at history and going, okay, what is reasonable? Now, I'm not saying they're all correct all of the time, but, you know, I'm going to trust Dr. James Carafano before I'm going to trust, you know, some of these CNN anchors.
Look, but you touched on it, right? The fourth estate in the media has long since stopped doing their job. If Donald Trump's election has shown us anything, much like Ronald Reagan in 1980, he was able to go around sort of the establishment and talk directly to the American people. Yeah. I think Trump's strategy of using podcasts and using social media allowed his message to go around sort of that cacophony of noise, or this echo chamber, if you will, in the media. So it's by talking to people like Dr. Carafano, it's talking to, you know, some of the other guests that we've had on, that I think it helps. It's so hard now, right, with the cacophony of noise and 24/7 news. And look, when everything is news, nothing is news, right? I mean, how do you filter it, right?
Correct.
And how do you know? I mean, again, you have our government is telling us, which, by the way, I do want to get back to the drones thing, right? The government says, the government says, and I'm going to get back to our interview with Dr. Carafano, but it says, having closely examined the technical data and tips from the concerned citizens, we assess that the sightings to date include a combination of lawful commercial drones, hobbyist drones, law enforcement drones, and a manner of fixed-wing aircraft helicopters and stars mistakenly reported as drones. Here's my point in all of this, right? If they did the investigation, why didn't they give us more information? And B, they just gave us a lot of information that is frankly useless, because it doesn't answer the question that everyone is asking, is what are they and where are they from and am I safe? Much like being able to go to a Dr. Carafano or go to some of our other guests over time and go around, you know, the CNNs of the world. Yeah. Because you have to do, growing up, we had CBS, ABC, NBC, and everybody watched the news at 6, and that was it. But one of the marks of journalism back then is you based on their content, you could not tell what their politics were. That's the way it was supposed to be, right? It goes back to Edward R. Murrow and the Murrow boys and those things as well. But you were passive. You passively got your news. Yeah. Meaning whether the paper was delivered or you watched TV, after dinner or whatever, and you got the news. Now you cannot be passive to get your information, because if you just imbibe what they're feeding you or giving you to drink, doesn't work. So in any event, I thought you were great. Yeah. Great guest, great interview. Yeah. And I'm honest, my head hurts. My head doesn't usually hurt.
That was good. It was really good.
So I want to segue in the few minutes we have left.
Talk to me, Goose.
Because talk to me, Goose.
Talk to me, Goose.
That would make you Maverick. Are you Maverick? Talk to me, Goose.
Well, yeah, in this scenario. Yeah.
So you're Maverick. Well, you're a Maverick. It's okay.
Hey.
I do love that about you. You are a Maverick. But
John McCain.
Our good friend John Andrasik, who's 5 foot fighting, who has been one of the staunchest defenders of Israel. Oh, yes. And its right to defend itself was part of, obviously, Israel Appreciation Day. Again, we're so thankful. But he's now turned his focus to Justin Trudeau in Canada, because there's a likelihood in the next 24 or 48 hours, Justin Trudeau steps down. Now, I am not prognosticating or saying he will or won't, but certainly the pressure's on. And you know how a picture's worth 1,000 words? Yeah. Well, music moves people in ways and gets the message out there that others don't. New song by John Andrasik, 5 for Fighting, about Justin Trudeau. Let's roll that one.
Justin Trudeau wants you to know that he never played hockey. Justin Trudeau has got to go. Stand clear, he never played hockey. Totalitarian parliamentarians, they have no mind to skate. They're only love their hate. They'll freeze your bank account. The Mounties they won't mount to trample on your rights like Fidel. Justin Trudeau is rather slow. It's too bad he never played hockey like the great one. This potato has got to go. Get someone who played hockey. He likes to arrest Jews while wearing tailor shoes. The blackface Bolshevik would never last one shift. He wouldn't shake your hand after a 7th game. He has no honor code like Ty Domi and Bob Probert. Oh, Canada, he's not part of a team. He's wimpy and he's mean. He's the emergency, the true north, strong and free. He never ate a puck. He doesn't give a truck. A Gordie Howe hat trick. The thought wouldn't make him sick. If he just scored one goal, his heart would have a soul. And understand assists are more than shots that miss. And no humility, freedom, liberty. It's more than just a game. God save us. Justin Trudeau wants you to know he never played hockey like the great one. Justin Trudeau has got to go. Get someone who played hockey.
So if Justin Trudeau resigns, John Andrasik at Five for Fighting deserves all the credit.
All the credit. All the
I
credit.
think so. I mean.
Oh my God. Defeats Portugal.
Hey, okay, don't sing. Don't. Okay, don't sing. Whatever you do. No, not that song. Don't sing. Yeah. Oh, please.
Oh, dear. I can't.
There's so much more we didn't cover, but I mean, I think that is the priceless right way to end. Again, our thanks to Dr. James Carafano for being our guest from Heritage Foundation.
Yes.
And where can they find us, Ericka? And let's roll out of here.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can find us anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. We are on Instagram, Twitter, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook. And if you ever can't find us on YouTube, because I have gotten us a couple of community guidelines strike, you can always find us on the free speech platforms of Rumble and Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, go find us. Watch all of the things, all of the amazing other guests like Dr. James Carafano. And next week is Christmas Eve, y'all. And we're not going to be here. Ben and I are going to be celebrating the birth of baby Jesus. And Robert,
we will have a show. We will have a show
next week for Christmas Eve.
We are.
We are.
It's a special. You have to tune in.
Oh, I remember now.
You're having a brain lapse. Sorry. So
I forgot. I thought we were having a week off.
No, there is a show next week.
Oh, yes.
You don't want to miss it, and you'll see.
And then definitely tune in on New Year's Eve for our best of episode.
Which live.